Something I hear all the time is I get all my work from word of mouth. I would say that that is both great and dangerous, and here's why. So I talked to a guy this morning, and how I came about talking to this guy is similar to how I ended up talking to a lot of people lately. He's been watching my YouTube videos for a while. He decided to explore the description, found a link to contact me, and these days I talk to 2 or 3 people every day, and I get to take a look at their stuff and help them with their situation as far as marketing and business and figuring out what to do. When I talk to somebody who is established, meaning they've been in business a while, sometimes 20, 30 years, sometimes it's multi-generational, or sometimes it's only been a few years, but I talk to a lot of people who they've been thriving off of word of mouth for a long time. Sometimes they're talking to me now because word of mouth has dried up. Like they get referrals all the time, now all of a sudden they're not, so now it's a problem. I'd say 80% of the time they're talking to me when it's a problem, when it's an emergency, but the other 20% of the time they just know that they're going to want to grow their business beyond what they can rely on word of mouth, and it's time to do something else, get diversified a little bit. So I would argue, like, if you're one of those in the 20% who you're doing great off of word of mouth, this is the best time to figure out some diversity as far as getting new customers. But if you are in a position where it's an emergency and your word of mouth dried up for whatever reason, like, this video is definitely for you. So the dude that I talked to this morning, he's got a painting company, and they actually do a whole bunch of things. About a year or 2 ago, he gained a contract with a property management company and got a contract to do like 50 remodels. And it was fantastic, right? It's like you could build a whole company starting with just 50 remodels in a couple years. What happened is he got this new client and started doing these jobs, and he pulled back from all of his marketing, all of his branding, everything that he had been slowly building up over the years. He just kind of backed off of it and went all in on this remodel stuff. And there are some realities where that would have gone really well, but this time, unfortunately, it didn't. And that relationship ended up falling through because somebody ran out of money and wasn't able to pay somebody, and everything kind of cascaded from there. And so now he's back to square one. He's owed a bunch of money, and he's trying to figure out what to do with his marketing. This is like a classic situation. I talked to so many people that are in some version of this where word of mouth was really great until it wasn't. And so my message to you is, if you're not in that situation yet where it's an emergency, like, don't let it get to that point. So like, word of mouth is good, like, right? I would argue that if you don't ever get any referrals or any repeat customers, even if your business is growing like crazy, like I talk to people sometimes who their marketing is so good, their business is growing, but they never get any referrals because they don't, like, their work isn't that great. Their clients don't have a great experience with them. They don't send them referrals. That's a huge red flag. That's like being on the world's worst treadmill, and anytime you fall off, it's like game over. So if you're not getting referrals, like, huge emergency, you need to fix that. Even if things are looking good right now, you want to be getting referrals. But if you are one of those guys, and I think most of you are, who you get referrals consistently, but you haven't figured out the marketing piece yet, you're actually in the best position of everybody, because you just figure out 1 or 2 ways to get some additional new customers coming into your ecosystem and joining the rest of your customers who are repeat clients or sending you referrals all the time. Then you're really able to pour fuel on the fire, and you're able to make the most of marketing. Here's the reality of marketing. Every year it gets more expensive. We all know that Google is where everything is at and has been for a long time. Every single year it gets more expensive to be on Google, to get customers, to get leads from Google. And that's just because every year more people figure it out. They're willing to spend more money to get a customer, and that raises the prices for everybody. And so the longer you wait to get started, the more expensive it's going to be, when you're fresh in the game. And that makes it even more challenging, because when you get into some of this stuff for the first time, you have a lot of uncertainty built up. Like, I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. And so it really, the fear of making a huge mistake is what holds people back for years, sometimes indefinitely. I talk to a lot of guys who've been like, they talked to me 5 years ago, and then they talked to me 3 years ago, and then they talked to me again this year, and they're still in the same kind of headspace of, I know I need to do something, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet. All of them, had they taken some action the first time they talked to me, they wouldn't be talking to me right now, at least not about the same thing. And so just know, like, that's a super common thing. You aren't unique in that you're afraid of making mistakes and that sometimes slow to get the ball rolling, but that's okay. Like, that's where we're all at once upon a time. And once you get going and you start getting some positive feedback because this stuff actually works, then you'll feel more comfortable with it. And that's why I'm able to stand here and make these videos every day and say this stuff, because I've seen it play out hundreds of times, a few times for myself, but hundreds of times for other people. And I look at it as, it's kind of like going to the gym. Like, if you go to the gym, you lift weights, you eat protein, you're going to build muscle. Like, it's guaranteed, unless you have some kind of rare disease or something where you can't build muscle, like you're 100% going to. But will that be enough for you to win the bodybuilding competition? That is unknown right now. But the first step is just get in the gym and start lifting some weights. And so it's the same with marketing. You get in there, you start competing, you see how well you do, and then you make adjustments from there depending on how well you stack up against your competition, how many leads you're getting, how much money you're making, how well any given opportunity works for you. You always do more of what works and do less of what doesn't, obviously. So the spot that you want to get to, I call it like the upward spiral. And there's kind of like two ways that you can go, up and down. And up is you get referrals. Maybe that's your whole business was built off of referrals. And then you add like some Google leads coming in. And maybe you even don't get that many. Maybe let's just say you get 5 leads a month and you're a remodeling company. So your average ticket, let's just say, is like $30,000. So you get 5 leads a month and one of them becomes a new customer. And you have 100 past clients who give you referrals. And so you get, let's just say you get 3 referrals a month and one of those becomes a job. So now you're getting 2 customers a month. Before, when you were just focused on referrals, you were getting 1 customer a month. And that was enough to keep you going. You figured out one thing that works on Google a little bit, and now you're getting 2 customers a month. And it snowballs from here because every time you get a new customer, they get added to your list of other customers who will have you back to do more things, will give you more referrals. There's a lot of things you can do to get more referrals. And I have a ton of videos about them. I'll try to remember to link those in the description. But you got referral cards. You always got to get reviews. When you do all this stuff, you end up going in this upward spiral where it just starts compounding on itself. Like, let's say you do that for 6 months, and now you're making a lot more money than you were before. So now you're able to, let's say, quadruple your marketing budget. So now you're getting 20 leads and 4 new customers a month. And they're getting added and they're giving you referrals. And all this stuff just stacks and stacks and stacks. On the flip side, if you're getting these customers, that's another customer that's not going to the other guy. And so let's say this guy he always gets referrals, and let's make it the same. So he gets 3 a month, and that's 1 new customer, and he has nothing else going on. So sometimes it works pretty well. Sometimes it doesn't. He gets kind of slow. He goes a couple months without making any sales, and time goes by. Less and less of his customers remember who he is. He hasn't done work with them in a long time, and so they're sending him less referrals, and he's less active. So he becomes more desperate, and when he goes and does an estimate, he's so desperate for the job that people can smell it, and so he underprices it, and they can smell it, and so they don't hire him, and you end up getting yourself into trouble here. And I know this, I've done this myself, but my family did this a long time ago. My family's remodeling company, Kyle Construction, we've been around for like 30 years. And when we first moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, we got all of our jobs through Lowe's. We were Lowe's installers. We do cabinets, windows, storm doors, anything and everything, flooring. And luckily for us, we did a really good job, and a lot of those customers we got through Lowe's would have us back to do other things, or they would give us referrals. And so for many years, probably the first like 5 years, we did nothing but referral jobs and Lowe's. And eventually, this was like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we added on Home Advisor. So we started buying leads, and that actually worked pretty good for a while. But as a lot of you have experienced with these lead reselling companies, it works good for a while and then it starts to work less and less. And so we found ourselves without Home Advisor, and eventually some things changed at Lowe's and they were just horrible to work with. So we cut out that source of new customers. So now all we were doing was repeat work and referrals. And it kept food on the table, but that was about it. We couldn't grow, we couldn't stay busy. We just were barely getting by. And that was about, I'd say 15, 20 years ago. That's when we figured out the website thing. And this was like, it's crazy that I'm this old, but this was back when websites were pretty new on the scene for construction companies. So we were one of like the first 3 companies in our area that had a website. And so for like 5 years, we just got bombarded with leads. We were getting like 40 leads a month from our website because even though the website didn't look that good, it was one of the only ones you could find. And so we got super lucky with that. But like most things, it didn't last forever. And years went by and we got less and less and less until it got to the point where we were back to only getting referrals and repeat business. Now, at this point, we had more customers than we did last time we went through this, but it was still the same thing. Some months we're good, we don't worry about it, but then a month or two goes by and we have 3 weeks left of the last job we're working on, and we're almost out of work. And so we had to figure something else out. And this was about, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. And that's when I figured out the Google stuff. And that was right during the time where I started Adapt, and I was starting to, get really heavy into the marketing world. And I was doing this for a few other companies, and I was like, oh, well, we need this too, so let's do it for ourselves. And that's been our main source of new customers ever since. And here we are 10-ish years later, and we're the company getting 5 leads. Like, we get 5 really high quality leads every month coming through our website. People find us on Google, they read some reviews, they fill out the form on our site. And when I say high quality, like, we have a lot of questions. We ask for a budget. We ask for them to upload plans if they have them. We ask for their timeline. We ask a lot of these qualifying questions up front because we don't want anybody to fill it out unless they're willing to give us all that info. And so we get 5 people giving us paragraphs of information about what they want. And those kind of people are really serious about working with us. But the thing is we don't even really need those leads because we're consistently booked out for like 12 months just off of repeat business and referrals. We don't do super high volume anymore. So we get a few big jobs and people are calling all the time that we've already worked with, asking us to do stuff. And we have to tell them like, oh, we can do it, next fall. And so these 5 leads, we still call them back, we'll still talk to them, but most of the time, like, the job has to be really ideal and perfect for us to take it. And so that gives us some security and some diversity, because if we ever do get to the point where we really need more work, we're not scrambling to try to figure out where it's going to come from. We have some consistency coming in from the outside. And I would say that that's like the first place to look for. If you're one of the companies who you're doing really well, you're just trying to find that diversity, like, you're in the perfect position. Because as soon as you find a way to add more customers into the fire, then it's just going to burn even brighter, and you'll be able to lock in on this upward trajectory. But if you've been riding this downward spiral for a while, then you need to do something. And I would start by seeking some help. Seek some professional help. But in all seriousness, I'm blessed these days in that I have a team that handles most of the day-to-day stuff at my company. So I get to spend my time making videos like this, talking to people like you, giving you whatever feedback and help I can in a short amount of time and helping you figure out what to do in whatever situation you're in. So if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you, see how, see what's going on, see if I can help you. There's a link in the description. Go fill that out, fill out the form, and we'll see what we can do. Other than that, if you have any questions about this stuff, or if you want to share a little bit of your own story, I know a lot of you guys have been through this before. It can be really helpful for your fellow contractors to hear a little bit from people who've been around the block a few times as far as how it went for you and what's going on. So hope that's all helpful. Thank you for watching.